Good evening. I am Bernice Baptiste-Martin, a student pursuing educational leadership and management at the University of the West Indies Open Campus. And today I will be presenting a strategic plan online training module for the course EDLM 3000, Instructional Leadership and Curriculum Management. My course coordinator or course instructor is Dr. Tima Stevenson. The ongoing situation has caused leaders, which is COVID-19, the impact of COVID-19 on our education systems, has resulted in leaders collaborating and sharing best practices to create systems to run countries, companies, and institutions as they recover socially and economically from the deleterious effects of the pandemic. The education sector of Trinidad and Tobago continues to grapple with the constant changes as they restructure and remodel existing framework to rebuild a robust system. Educational leaders are directly responsible for their institutions, and therefore they must accept the responsibility to create a learning environment that shapes the mind of great leaders, as well as provide a caring and professional environment for staff, even in these difficult, challenging times. Jacob et al. In 2019 conducted a study in Malaysia that postulated that strategic planning provides an opportunity for planners to act proactively by reimagining its future and aligning technology and resources in the environment. The uncertainty of the times will no doubt cause skepticism and fear for stakeholders. Leaders may experience problems as they navigate the strategic planning and implementation process to gain the trust and commitment of stakeholders. Further to this, due to the economic challenges, business communities may show a lack of interest in collaborative efforts. Consequently, the onus is on us. The onus is on us to gain the trust and commitment of stakeholders. The onus is on the school's leadership to generate marketing and communication plans that effectively manage the process to achieve the desired goals and outcomes. There must be an aggressive yet well-constructed plan to solidify the buy-in generated throughout its process. The process, according to the unit readings of both EDLM 3000 and EDLM 2002, says that it should not be rushed or haphazard, but a structured framework aimed at circulating it as widely as possible, including both internal and external stakeholders. And the document must be completely understood by its audience. The tools used for exploring goals and strategies must consider training, timing, and resources, aligning these activities with the organization in a coherent manner, even at the communication stage. Today's presentation would allow you to define strategic planning, distinguishing it from other planning processes, justify the benefits of strategic planning in the educational context, describe the phases of strategic management and planning cycle, describe the role of transformational leaders, the role transformational leaders play in inspiring change and staying focused on the vision and mission, highlighting the value of stakeholders in the participation in the planning process, analyze the role of institutional culture, on the strategic planning process and provide a guide for institutions to develop their own strategic plan with specific focus on school effectiveness and improvement. To recognize the importance of the tools needed for management, monitoring, and evaluating the strategic plan. In its simplest form, the strategic plan would help an organization to understand where it is now. So the question would be asked, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how will we get there? So this training module will take you through the process in planning an excellent strategic plan. The learning community needs to be at the same place. Strategic planning is a deliberate process that articulates institutional mission, weighs external opportunities and threats, gauges internal strengths and weaknesses, and determines appropriate action. That's Robert Shirley. These would produce fundamental decisions and actions that shape and guide what a learning community is, what it does, and why it does it, with a focus on improvement and effectiveness for the future. It is recommended that all learning communities have a strategic plan. Without it, stakeholders, parents, students, staff, and the community will be unsure of the direction in which the learning community is going. With a strategic plan, everyone is working towards the same vision, trying to reach the same goals, and building commitment to achieving these. A future you want to create for your institution, understanding that you may want to keep some things and you would build or review other areas. You would also look at the values of your institution, your team cultures, and the behaviors. The value of strategic planning to the learning communities is more than having a blueprint that guides future leadership decisions. It also is an effective means to encourage effective communication and motivate others, garner resources, support, and is particularly useful in defining priorities for the instructional leader who may be in charge and responsible for the implementation of the plan. Planning. The strategic plan has begun. The school stage of development must be understood, and the leader would select a strategic planning committee. There must be training and support for that committee. There must be an understanding of the resources available within that learning community as they engage in structured, meaningful communication with stakeholders. And while doing so, the committee members must ensure that persons' contributions are considered and valued. There must be a structured form of this planning process and communication to set the direction and to be able to meaningfully translate strategy into action and to review those strategies, prioritizing and ensuring that the strategies that would set the course for the institution are set. Immediately, the committee might want to do what we call an environmental assessment or a SWOT analysis. It identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the learning institution. It takes a simple form in the form of a table split into 4 quadrants. Like we have here, students would be able to fill it out by questions such as, What do you like about your school? What do you think can be improved about your school? Do you know of anything that you would like to happen for your school? And are there any threats? Do you like anything else about other schools? So you simplify it in the simplest of ways. Teachers should be able to fill this out. How it starts, you do what we call a stakeholder mapping. The committee would sit and they would discuss who are the contributors to the learning community. You would take into consideration all stakeholders. No stakeholder is to be considered as small, not valuable. Each stakeholder should be considered. The data collection process, which is this SWOT analysis, should capture everyone in the stakeholder mapping to review how systems function and examine various contextual factors, determining factors. How you as your school manage policies, how you as your school manage the implementation of the curriculum, how you as your school run its day-to-day activities should be considered in the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Why is this being done? The SWOT is being done ideally to identify the critical issues that exist in your learning institution, to identify the challenges that exist in your learning institution, to build on the achievements attained by your learning institution, and where there may be challenges, to construct remedial actions that address these challenges. Even in the form of threats, as in schools, there could be collaborative effort and turning these threats into strengths for your institution as they become meaningful in your learning community. The SWOT analysis takes a number of forms. Some of the most common are interviews. These interviews may be for persons who are busy, such as in the business community. You would have a representative from your stakeholder mapping on your committee, your strategic planning committee. However, a teacher needs to be conducting interviews with them and identifying whether it's through a questionnaire, whether it's through email, identifying these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats through meeting with them. I know I can mention for something like sports or Christmas, Christmas celebrations that may be by classrooms, we would call them Christmas parties, for want of a better term. And the teachers may meet out to, there may be persons, teachers who are effective with doing so, managing that sponsorship area for schools. They may be the best person to conduct these interviews. You could make them formal or informal, what works best for your learning community. Now it's common to use Google Forms as questionnaires, different mechanism where you can quickly send them out to the members in the learning community. However, once this process starts, persons within your learning community must know that a strategic planning process has started and that the questionnaire is important and valuable to the process. And there must be someone who's communicating and ensuring these questionnaires are collected and that the information is not just being collected and stuck somewhere, but the information is being used, would be used for the strategic planning process. And a recording of the responses, a recording of who responds, how many responses more may be needed to make the contribution from the students, from the parents, from the business community, from the Ministry of Education to give that level playing field to the planning process. So we have our SWOT analysis, and that would be collected, and that would be what shapes or gives credence to our mission statement. This is not to be rushed. It comes in the form of a short sentences, but it should be one that's captivating, one that is unique to your institution. It must be purpose-driven and provides a sense of direction. What the school desires to be must be outlined in this statement, those it intend to serve, and the philosophical premises that it stands by. Stakeholders reading your mission statement must gain valuable insight into your institution. It must capture a number of stakeholders. And this was posited by Ireland and Hook in 1992. We have here an example of a mission statement. If we take a look at this mission statement, we would notice that it's to develop well-rounded citizens as the institution aims to contribute to the society at large. How does it plan to do that? And it gives a scope into what the institution is about. It provides a wide range of academic and co-curricular programs. What is unique about it? What does it want to stand out about it? Within a caring and supportive environment. And it goes into the even more unique aspect of it, since it emphasizes spiritual and moral excellence. If we take even a closer look at the mission statement, we would notice that it is clear, it is brief, catchy, yet purports flexibility in implementation with focus. Although we are aware that it's an educational institution, it says a wide range of academic and co-curricular programs. So persons who offer co-curricular programs that may not be in the school will know that they have an option to join as well, because we said we want various stakeholders to be able to understand that you can partner with us. It can be deemed as achievable and realistic as it compels partnership and inspire others to join it. We will now look at the vision statement. The vision statement suggests that it's a mental image. This mental image must become clearer than even the vision statement, and it must be understandable to all stakeholders. It must be memorable, broad enough to allow flexibility in implementation, yet even more focused than the mission statement. It must be kept real and achievable, propelling and compelling, yet inspiring persons. And this is where you start setting your high ideals, consistent with the institutional's values, history, and culture. We have here the vision statement. As we indicated, it's a mental image. It presents a picture of the desired future through a written expression of the dream for the future. And we have an example here. So this came from a Christian institution. It promotes the holistic development of every child, thus enabling him or her to function effectively as a socially responsible citizen. So you have something that's shorter. It points out that it's a Christian institution, and it starts by intriguing persons to say that we function effectively. And not that the institution functions effectively, my apology, but that the student leaving should be able to function effectively as a socially responsible citizen. It's flexibility, yet it purports and set that high ideal for the student that leaves this institution. The buying continues. Remember, we were saying who would be on the committee, and that would be from your stakeholder mapping. But once that is established, and once you have that core committee members, this may be reflective of my committee. This is where, once the vision and mission statement are completed, persons should share this vision and mission statement to those who contributed to it. So for the school, staff, heads of department would share it within their within their departments, ensuring that persons may have a rating scale or something of the sort to select. You may offer like 3 options of vision statement, 2 options of a mission statement, 2 options and a rating scale, or things that they may suggest might change. You need a review and feedback, and this would ensure that buying continues. Of all staff, parents as well should be able to review the vision, the mission and vision statements. The business community, whether the responsibility is given to the person on the committee that represent these groups to collaborate with them, or whether it's an effort that it's sent out to them through the same questionnaires or interview method. However, there needs to be a review and feedback on these. And just as importantly, as their input was at the beginning of the strategic planning process, you want to ensure that that happens even at this stage. The Ministry of Education, church members, community leaders would have an input into the vision and mission statements, the mission and vision statements, before they are completed and move forward towards the planning of the strategic goals, prioritized strategic goals. The strategic goals must be linked to the vision. They must be measurable. A person must be able to identify from them. A person must be able to identify from them whether they have achieved their goals through attaining what was measured, the number of persons to be trained. They must be purpose-driven. As the goal outlines, as we go to the goal next, you would see that how to make them purpose-driven, and they must be indicative of a long-term vision and forward-focused. They must be actionable. There must be something done to achieve the goal. The objectives. The verb indicates the action. The adjective describes how it's done, and now the result of it. So, what would happen to get caring and supportive students? What would happen to get well-rounded citizens? What actions will be taken? They will be able to debate. Students will be able to have well-informed debates every term on social issues, resulting in students who are more aware of issues affecting the society. The result, we want them to be more aware of social issues in the society. You're going to describe how they're going to be prepared for debates. They're going to engage in debates, whether it's during the assembly time, whether it's during form period time. So they are specific. How many students would engage in the debate? How many forms would engage in debate? How many teachers would be trained to teach these students to engage in these debates? Would it be achievable? So you're not going to put on real figures. You're going to ensure that the figures are reflective of what can truly happen as the curriculum is delivered. They must be relevant, and they must be time bound. So you must give specific times. What school year it's going to happen? What term is it going to happen? How long is it going to be happening for? 2 years, and this must be outlined. An example would give clarity to what I'm saying. So we would look at this goal number 2. So I mentioned to prioritize goals. From your process, you should have been able to select what we would call prioritized goals, and there may be a number of them. The committee would decide how many goals would be manageable for your learning institution. I selected an excerpt from my draft strategic planning as goal 2. This one is academic excellence. If we would look at the verb, the noun, what actions we would just brainstorm and try to see if we can identify those. What do we want to do? We want to improve academic excellence for learners. How? Bringing coherence to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. How? Providing resources to enhance learning and also to enhance teacher professional skills. And we have a timeline by 2027. A sub-objective comes because this, you would realize, has a number of areas. And in the sub-objectives, you can start pulling out and dealing with each area. So from this sub-objective, you would notice that assessment was pulled out and the time period has started to lessen. So it's now measured in a 2-year period. The school will be able to expand the method of testing to include online testing, very specific to online testing and formative assessment. And you get even more specific because it's training teachers. You could be even more specific for your learning community in how many teachers will be trained, right? And then you have resources that you can now assist with. So you now have to secure an appropriate website or software. You get specific again, you have numbers, you have one specific class, Form 5, you have the year that this should happen, 2023 to 2024, students, you're gonna expose the Form 5 students to online testing in all subject areas. This means that you and your committee are brainstorming the writing up of your strategic plan. As you write, you would have whether trained persons, a number of persons reviewing it, and you may find that you would be able to improve on the skill and technique of it. So your writing of the strategic plan may take varied forms. What we want to recognize is the strategic plan is not only for your staff, it's also for parents, students, business community, so, and your community at large that the school would be operating from. So you may have a banner being displayed at the front of your school, or something indicating what your theme for your strategic plan is. You may have brochures that may be present at your sports meeting, at your parents' meeting, that may be specific. The goals in those brochures may be specific in the role that the parents or business leaders may take in ensuring the strategic plan is effectively managed to attain its goals and outcomes, the results that needed. However, my draft strategic plan is the plan that all leaders should get. Leaders should have the strategic plan in its entirety, whereas other areas in the educational system may have just part of the plan. All leaders must have the entire strategic plan. It must be emailed to them or provided in hard copy, whatever method is used. And I have presented, I am going to present a draft strategic plan, remembering that we are at the stage of writing the strategic plan. Because I'm going into writing the strategic plan, I'm going to go into monitoring of the strategic plan as part of the write-up of the plan. However, we must understand that monitoring is an ongoing process of the strategic plan. So if you would permit me, I would go into this draft strategic plan at this point in time, and we will have a look at it. The draft strategic plan should start, your cover page for your draft strategic plan is in its entirety. Should start with your school's name, the strategic plan, a team that would be agreed upon by the committee. I would have had a team because a strategic plan reminds me so much of a roadmap. So I would have labeled my draft our roadmap to excellence for every student. I would have placed here, just because it would be the first strategic plan for my learning community, just an idea of what they would be getting. This strategic planning framework will be used as a guide for decision making, those centered around shaping excellence in our students through outcomes built upon common mission, vision, and the guiding principles held by the PLLF High School. You would have your table of contents. This is supposed to inspire the persons that take it to want to read it, to want to find out what is in it. And it should not be the first time they are seeing or understanding the strategic plan. However, new members, new workers should be able to receive a copy at their initiation process. At that first week when they come in and the educational leader tells them about the school and asks them where they can fit in, a copy should be kept for those purposes. However, persons that exist within the institution, while the strategic planning process is happening, they should not see the document for the first time when it's in the final copy. At the draft stage, they should have seen this document. Their heads of department may share it with them, but there should be a knowledge of the document. So from this document, we would want to identify the table of contents page. We have a letter from the chairman of the board, a letter from the school's strategic planning committee. You have the acknowledgements, the vision statement, the mission statement, the motto of the school, the core values, the strategic focus areas, the objectives, and how the monitoring and evaluation titled, How Will We Assess the Progress of Our Goals? So if you look at the letter, it doesn't signal that I'm a leader. It signals that we are collaborating. It signals that it's a friendship and a partnership. And it says, I am pleased to present the strategic plan. It follows by saying the following pages will be a presentation of the hard work and dedication to transforming our school as it recovers from the impact of COVID-19. The ideas were formulated after months of dialogue, assessment, and deliberations, and you're going to notice educators, staff, parents, students, and other stakeholders of our learning community. It says what the discussion is centered around. What is most important for our students as they prepare for the world and Tobago's COVID-19 recovery? How can our school achieve the desired outcomes? And how will we know we are successful? As leaders in Tobago continue dialogue to guide this beautiful island to contribute to the global market, you start to see words like, we are excited about our role. The conversation was exciting, enlightening, and highlighted the great pride we bear as a school. What you want to start happening is that persons are feeling enthusiastic and eager about the process. The strengths, as they were aligned with the challenges, the evolving expectation of our students. And you would have it signed off, the ambitious plan, the time that the plan would be. You also, in this strategic plan, strategic plans may vary, but what you want coming out of them is that inspiration, is that excitement, and that call for collaboration and cooperation. Despite the uncertainty experienced, this is from the head of the school's committee, which may be in the form of the principal or someone else assigned. We adopted a fresh approach with a new revised focus on students, teaching and learning. We will continue our hard work. Our team is committed to excellence. We are thankful for the support of contributions, time, information, financial donations, that propel our school, letting them know that without their input, it won't be possible. Special thank you for leadership development and training in creating the strategic plan. And then somewhere in there, you would see the quote again, our roadmap to excellence for every student. You want the memorable part of whatever your strategic plan is to start standing out even in this copy. And it's signed off by the head of the committee. You have an acknowledgement of, and here we would see who was on this committee, right? The principal, we have the head of departments, we have dean of studies, dean of discipline, we have educators, board member, parent teachers association, the union represented, business community representative, a student representative, student representatives, and then we have Division of Education Strategic Planning Consultant. And you go on to your mission statement, your vision statement. We have a motto in this, and then we have our core values. Our core values are really reflective of what we said again, our mission and vision. All right, so here we wanted a caring and supportive environment. Then we wanted this child to function effectively as a socially responsible citizen. So here, and we had a Christian institution. So the core values and philosophies are reflected even as you go into the strategic plan. So you have reverence, reflective of the Christian, courtesy, humility, cooperation, inclusion, reflective of effective behaviors for a social and responsible citizen. Excellence. So you have those core values. You could put pictures, persons would use pictures of achievements throughout the years. Here I would have placed a quote. You can place the quote and pictures as well. As I said, the format would vary, but when you are planning the one for entire staff in its entirety, you still want it to be catchy. However, you would want all the information in as brief as possible. The best work is achieved when students, staff, faculty members, and academic personnel are integrated into the community, giving them a sense of belonging. Belonging is the experience that flows from participating fully in the chances to learn, create, discover, and achieve. The experience of belonging also supports full embrace of the responsibilities of stewardship that we all have for the ongoing improvement of our community. What we want to accomplish, and this would come in our strategic focus, as I would have called it before, prioritize the strategic focus, and your team, as I said, would decide how many of them. For me here, I have 4. So we have spiritual, culture, and climate development, academic excellence, progressive discipline process, and personal well-being. And you would go on to do, as we indicated before, the strategic objectives. There are a number of goals. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. You will have goals, and those would be the goals that you and your team. And then out of those goals, you would have sub-objectives. So if we look at goal 1, which was based on the focus, the strategic focus area, spiritual culture and climate development, to educate stakeholders on the purpose and principles of the institution. So the institution wants to improve the understanding of that spiritual culture and climate development. They want stakeholders to understand how is that important. So they're going to do a spiritual developmental plan that meets the spiritual needs of staff and students. Timeline by 2025. The sub-objectives bring it even closer home. At the end of the 5-year period, the school will be able to develop staff and students' understanding of the school's purpose. How this would be done? They would explain, students would be able to explain the school's vision, staff would be able to explain the school's vision, mission, and philosophy, and at whole school assemblies. They'll be able to discuss the core value. As a word of the week would be done again in the assembly and class worship. And they're going to have hard copies of the school's mission, vision, and its values. This would contain 2 sub-objectives. And as I said, it would be the responsibility of the committee to brainstorm and see how many goals, how many sub-objectives. However, what you want is for them to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. Those are the factors that should govern them. And then we move on to the ever so important. I'm going to monitoring and evaluation because we have written up. However, monitoring and evaluation is part of the end bit when the implementation has already happened. But when the strategic plan is being written up, your team should discuss the relevant and practical monitoring and evaluation methods for the goal that has been set out. How is it going to be monitored? So in this brief area, they would have said how the goals above will be monitored. It says during the year 2022 to 2023, the school would identify the measures used to assess the school's progress towards meeting the goals of the strategic plan. How are they going to measure them? They're going to be measures of growth, social and development, and emotional development, as well as school climate. For the successful implementation of the long-term strategic plan, there should be a focus on continued improvement of teaching and learning. This will be initiated with a school improvement plan, which is defined at the beginning of the school's academic calendar. It will establish a source for each year's operational planning while maintaining the strategic emphasis. Mid-year would happen, mid-year a check-in will be performed by the committee to ensure the learning community is on course. Following this, at the end of the school year, an annual report of progress will be generated and utilized. So you want to evaluate the achievements of the year and assess how the plan and implementation process will be improved for the following year. The continuous improvement should keep the strategic plan updated, flexible, and on course to face the challenges. Like our periods of review will respond to minor and major environmental changes that affect the progress. The community, through its continual course adjustments, will bring the plan in line with the vision and ensure the success of the long-term strategic plan. And you would have your references. Bear with me as I go back to my slideshow. We were at the write-up of the plan, and after that, that draft strategic plan should now go out to the leaders again for review with their entities. So the Dean of Discipline, the Dean of Studies, they each should take it to their departmental meetings. The business community leader will take it to the community leaders, and they would review it and ensure that it's satisfactorily done. Their contributions were valued, and any editing that takes place, that person that was placed to liaison from the initial stages would continue that communication, keep that open communication so that if any changes should happen at that place, it happens. So the buying continues. The document goes to the school, staff, students, ancillary staff, parents, business community, other entities such as the church leader, the ministry board member, the Ministry of Education, other community leaders. They each will get a copy at this point in time for further editing and you're gonna have the launch. The launch for us could take varying forms according to your learning committee. In Trinidad and Tobago, we celebrate a lot. So no doubt we have our awards ceremony at the, whether it's at the graduation time or whether it's the end of a calendar year. And these are forums which the leaders would use to launch the strategic plan. Or you may have just a set event where the launch takes place. As I said before, the banner may be displayed at that point. There may be a sporting event at that point where the sporting community learn how they would contribute to the strategic process. However, there must be something that signals the start of this strategic plan and continues that partnership that began with the planning of the strategy, with the establishment of the strategic committee. This enables staff to develop and deliver the strategy. So it's a signal that says, let's get going and see how we can achieve these outcomes. However, it's a creative and innovative process. So staff members are still allowed to be creative and they are still allowed to develop innovation as they show there are more capabilities and they would even go beyond the goal. And as the review and monitoring take place, you would realize that you even surpassed some of those goals and outcomes that you desired. At this point as well, even with the economic challenges that exist, you would want to review your budget, ensure the time and resources are realistic, and the technology, because technology is forever changing, the technology from your perspective as an effective leader is being effectively used. The technology is incorporated, it is at the stage it's supposed to be, and it's relevant. Monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation is what we may call the last of the process, the final step in the planning process. Before completing the plan, it must be agreed on, as I said when you were writing it up, it must be agreed on what are the effective intervention points. It must be agreed on their relevance. You are not going to ask for the same evaluation or monitoring methods for the landscaping area to be used for the curriculum area. So there would be varying monitoring and evaluation processes that take place for the different goals that exist. It is extremely important to check periodically that the plan development is on track. Reports and other information should then be used to review the process towards meeting the strategic aims and objectives. It is important to ensure that all stakeholders are doing the necessary work as outlined in the plan and are keeping appropriate records so that the process can be assessed. During implementation, it is necessary to clearly set out how well the learning community is doing. Many learning communities develop strategic plans, but fail to take notes on issues which arise, and this may cause failure. As instructional leaders and managers, it is important to be aware that planning does not guarantee the outcome. However, it is the execution of the plan that ensures and it gives an awareness so that pitfalls can be remedied. So it's the monitoring and evaluation that tells you what needs to be shifted because of the budget, with the new technology available, if that is relevant to the time, and how it can be updated. So therefore, the data must be collected to ensure that these changes can be made and in timely manner. So this strategic planning cycle is one that reflects very well for me how the strategic planning cycle takes place. It has the mission, It's centered around the mission. You would have the goals being set. We went to the vision, we went to our values, and then the goals being set. Where do we want to go? The desired outcomes from these goals. How do we get there? These are the strategies, our measures, our monitoring, and what are the actual results that we got? And based on these results, how can we improve? How did we do and how can we improve? How do we measure the success? These would have been outlined in the strategy, what our success would have been. How many teachers to train, what classes training, how many of them doing the online testing. And then the results will determine what we need to improve to achieve this number for certainty. Ultimately, instructional leaders are empowered by the strategic process. If they understand its importance and relevance to their learning committee and chart their way to excellence through this strategic planning cycle, they will be empowered. The dynamic, creative, and ongoing process of the strategic planning process allows critical issues to be addressed, whilst promoting ownership with proactive attitude. A collaborative and cooperative team is built, established through effective and efficient management and communication. In addition to that, the institution shows that it is serious about its goals, eventually gaining advantage over others as it develops its desired brand. I thank you for listening. I hope that you would have gained some knowledge and you would be able to plan your own strategic planning. You would be able to engage in your own strategic planning for your learning institution. I thank you for listening. Have a good evening.